Okay, so Flyweight has had a lot of news come out recently. This title fight is happening. Pantoja versus Kai France is targeted for UFC 314 on the undercard, the co-main event of Volkanovski versus Topuria. This is an interesting matchup that has a lot of implications for multiple divisions. So we'll go over that. We'll also go over this Steve Erceg versus Brandon Moreno that has been announced. This is an interesting matchup that doesn't really have that much weight to it, to be honest. But we also have this Chase Hooper versus Jim Miller, which is interesting. And then we have this Shara Magomedov and some bullshit with him involving the Nurmagomedovs. So we'll go over all of that in today's video, starting with Pantoja versus Kai France being announced. So this fight is interesting because it's not interesting actually at all. Pantoja has already beat Kai France once. They give him this matchup, and it's just anticlimactic. But at this point, it's always going to be anticlimactic going into this with Pantoja because he's already beaten everyone. So we kind of have to just throw fighters at Pantoja to get them out of the way until he's either the GOAT or he's lost. But going into this matchup, I don't see Kai France. I don't see a path of victory for him. Pantoja has a fucking dynamite chin that is not going to get broke by Kai France in this fight, I don't think. And Kai France is not going to be able to submit him. I don't think he's going to get the decision. I think it's going to go the exact same way his first fight went. And he's going to dominate the grappling. I think he's going to submit him at some point. I don't know if that's how the first fight went. But I think he's going to win on the feet as well with the fear of the takedown. I think Pantoja is going to dominate this fight. And eventually, he's going to become the GOAT of fucking flyweight because nobody can fucking knock him out. But this also means bantamweight is in a weird situation because Pantoja moving up to fight Merab did make a lot of sense for both of them because both of them don't really have a solid contender at this moment. This matchup being announced to me implies that Merab is getting O'Malley in his next fight. The rematch after O'Malley had just lost to Merab, I see that as the most likely outcome for bantamweight, which is weird. I wouldn't say that's good. I'd say that's shit. But I see that happening. I see them just giving O'Malley the rematch right out the gate because of this matchup being announced. We also have this Moreno versus Erceg, which honestly doesn't have any weight to it at all because they've both already lost to Pantoja, but it's still an interesting matchup. I thought Erceg beat Pantoja in their first fight. So, going into this with a Moreno that's a little bit more battle damaged, that's a little bit less spry and active as a fighter. And in the octagon, I mean active. Like he's not jumping around and bouncing around and super energetic anymore. In his last couple fights, he's been a little bit slow. Erceg has really good takedown defense. He's very crisp striking. If his chin holds up, I could see him winning this fight against Moreno. Sadly, this doesn't have any title implications, I would say. Maybe it does for Erceg. I don't think so, though, because he's coming off a knockout loss to Kai France. I'm surprised he's even getting this at all. I would expect a Tatsuro Taira versus Erceg, or even a Taira versus Moreno, because that's the only person fucking Pantoja hasn't fought yet. And the jiu-jitsu game of Taira would make it interesting against Pantoja. That's the last contender we need. We need Taira to win a fight, but we don't have him booked. I would have booked him against Moreno. But going into this, I don't care really what happens. But I think Erceg's going to win. Bring it back to Urcel energy. I think he can win this. If his chin holds up, which I don't trust Moreno's finishing potential on the feet at this point in his career. I don't really like Moreno very much, if you couldn't tell. But he's still very good, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins. But the way Erceg fought against Pantoja makes me feel like he's going to get over this speed bump in his career and go forward in it and eventually fight for the belt again. That's just what I think. Next, Jim Miller versus Chase Hooper. So Chase Hooper is proving to be the veteran killer. He's fighting every veteran he can. To be fair, though, Jim Miller is not Clay Guida. He is better than Clay Guida everywhere, pretty much, I would say. He could outstrike Hooper. I don't see it happening. Hooper has this weird ability to impose his will on people. Even though he looks like that, he can still kind of do that. He still has like a weird presence that he just gets people down. Like, people can't really handle it, especially if you're old as fuck, like Jim Miller. I don't get why they're making this fight, to be honest. But I'm going to take Hooper to out wrestle Jim Miller and probably submit him. I don't see Miller getting a guillotine on him or anything. I know Miller's jiu-jitsu is good, but it's not at this point in his career and what Hooper's been doing in his. I think Hooper's going to be able to get this one done by wrestling, probably submit him, probably rear naked choke. That's just how I see this going. Kind of similar to Guida, probably a little bit more difficult, I would say. Jim Miller's a little bit better than Guida, but I see Hooper winning, and I see. Actually, shit, Miller might not retire. He said he wants to fight on UFC 400. I don't see that happening, but I hope Miller wins. It'd be awesome. But after the damage he's been taking and everything involving his career at this point, I don't think he's going to be able to hang with Hooper. So yeah, I'm going Chase Hooper next. I hope Miller wins though. So Shara, this makes me a little nervous going into this matchup with Paige because I picked Shara. But apparently Shara Magomedov was kicked out of the Nurmagomedov gym because he refused to cut his hair. And he has said this because he wanted to get girls, pretty much. I always had long hair. I always had a long haircut, and in my childhood, youth, school time, I heard about the gym. The problem was to sign up there, you had to have a haircut. And because of this, he didn't, because he wanted to get a girl. He wanted girls to like him, which makes me fear for him as a prospect in general. His wrestling is not going to be good. I see him getting fraud checked by a wrestler. At this point, I see maybe not Bo Nickel. I don't rate Bo Nickel very highly, to be honest. I see Shara beating Bo Nickel on damage, but he pretty much just wants to go for girls, and that's why he didn't come to the Nurmagomedov gym to work on wrestling, which I think is kind of funny. I'm fine with that, to be honest. I think it's cool that he did that. I like a striker that is not going to wrestle. But this makes me worried that he might not shoot on Paige at any point in that fight. So this might be a stand and bang only fight. I'm still going to take Shara, but that definitely changes things a little bit. I don't see Shara going for the takedown anymore. I don't see him having the skill set to get them down at this point. I wouldn't have said this before your matchup, but he did. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. I'm still going to go with Shara to beat Paige. I think he's going to be bigger. I think he's going to have more output. I think he's going to take the big shots of Paige and dish back more. I think that's what the judges are going to like in this fight. So, that's about it. Some news and some weird comments by Shara Magomedov. I will see you soon. Like and subscribe.